Donald Trump has put tariffs on some of the remotest places on Earth. I am here on Spetsbergen in the archipelago of Svalbard, deep inside the Arctic Circle, only 500 miles from the North Pole, reporting from the very northern front line of the ongoing global trade war. Svalbard is a Norwegian territory with special international status under the 1920 Svalbard Treaty, and it was surprised to find itself on the list of countries and territories affected by the US tariffs announced by President Donald Trump in April. 60% of Svalbard is covered by glaciers, and there are around 3,000 polar bears in the region, that is, counting the surrounding sea ice. Now, given that the total year-round human population of these islands is 2,500, Donald Trump's tariff has here literally hit a place with more polar bears than people. The global economy has been thrown into disarray by new US tariffs on more than 100 countries. And some of these tariffs have been put on territories that are either uninhabited or claim to have no trading relationship with the US. Some trade experts have suggested that the inclusion of places like Svalbard on Trump's tariff list shows how rushed the process must have been. Does the US really know what it's doing? I am here in the Arctic, but Heard Island and McDonald Islands, on almost exactly the other side of the globe from where I'm standing, were also named on the US tariff list, in spite of being mainly inhabited by macaroni penguins. Similarly, Norfolk Islands, northeast of Sydney, was named on the tariff list with a tariff of 29%. Now, according to reporting from The Guardian, this was mainly due to erroneously labelled shipments being fed into the US tariff formula. You see, there is another Norfolk in the United Kingdom, and yet another one in North America. Olivia Fredslund is a dog sleigh guide on Svalbard, and her go-to karaoke song during the monthly karaoke night at Svalbard, that's without the D, is Hot in Here by Nelly. You live and work here on Svalbard, and this is your cabin where you live.
Yes, I live right here in this cabin. I work for Green Dog, and we live here in Boulder Island in Svalbard.
And what would you say that you worry about more in your daily life? Tariffs or polar bear attacks?
I will probably go with the polar bear attacks.
The main population group of Svalbard is famously and rightfully hostile to media attention or any human attention. Carrying a rifle is therefore a legal requirement outside of settlements here on Svalbard due to the polar bear risk. But other local leaders have thoughts about the US tariff. How concerned are you about the tariffs? The tariffs are called reciprocal by the US administration. Now, in other areas of life, for example, in bed, reciprocity simply means that you do to someone what they have already done to you. However, the new US tariffs were calculated using a formula that surprised the economists of the world. Real reciprocity would mean a formula based on what countries already charge the US in terms of tariffs and non-tariff barriers, like, for example, regulations. But Donald Trump is instead trying to target countries that have a trade surplus with the US as such. He has also broken away from the formula by imposing tariffs on countries that buy more from the US than they sell to it. That has been the fate of a large economy like the United Kingdom and a small economy like Svalbard. The Svalbard economy is based in mining, research activities and tourism. The last coal mine is closing this summer and the rest of the export sector is small but determined. Robert Johansen is a former miner, Arctic seaplane pilot and Coast Guard. When he wanted to start a brewery in 2010, it was still illegal to make beer on Svalbard. He called the government department once a month for 5 years. They changed the law.
Vi exporterar inte till USA.
Har ni några planer på att börja exportera till USA?
Nej.
Varför inte det?
Nej, ikke med, altså når vi har en sånn kar som sitter borti der og regjerer, og så er jo alt usikkert, så det vil jo være dumt. Det finnes andre plasser i verden vi kan selge ølet vårt.
We are only in the beginning of this trade war, and its full effect on global supply chains are yet to be seen. Svalbard might hold a particular relevance here. It is the closest inhabited place to the North Pole. Now, does Donald Trump putting a tariff on Svalbard mean that he has also put a tariff on the actual North Pole? Officially, there are no exports from the North Pole to the US or anywhere else in the world. But that's not counting the secretive non-state actor with complete market access, zero barriers and no compliance costs who every year exports billions of items all over the globe within a 24-hour window, implying an extraordinarily optimized, possibly magical supply chain. People here in Svalbard will tell you that Santa Claus does indeed come down from the North Pole and takes up residence here in the abandoned mine number 2 above me. But he is the ultimate outlier of global trade, and it is very unclear if the tariff now put upon Svalbard by the US administration will have any effect on Santa Claus or any other possible exports from the North Pole itself. How could a hypothetical scenario like this play out from an economic perspective?
Well, I have to say I'm fairly worried about this. The tariff level on Santaland has not yet been declared, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if you look at the calculations presented in the Rose Garden at the White House, we can note that it will likely be very, very high. The idea was that you should set the tariff so that imports to the US falls to the level of exports to that country that you put the tariff on. And as far as I know, the exports of US to Santaland is zero. So the tariff has to be set to a level so that present distribution from Santaland to the US goes to zero. So something has to be done. And I think one idea is to draw on the fact that the geographic location of Santaland is actually unknown. On Svalbard, there is a small mining village that's owned by the Russians. And if the reindeers can take off from there, I think that you could argue that the exemption of Russia from tariffs would apply in this case too.
Svalbard is often called the place outside of time due to the sun never setting for several months every year. No night, no twilight, no dusk. But even a place like this, on the very edge of the planet, has been drawn into the current trade war. Katrine Kielos from Långbyen, Svalbard, for EFN.